In the shadow of the jagged cliffs of Gorik's Ridge, a question lingered heavily in the air. What price must one pay for survival in a world where death lurks behind every corner? On Deathworld X-13, an unforgiving planet known for its grotesque flora and feral fauna, the line between life and death was not merely blurred, but often obliterated. It was here, in the sterile yet sinister confines of the Galactic Medical Academy, that the Deathworlder Zaruk stood poised to unveil the harrowing truths of survival. Zaruk, a grizzled veteran of countless skirmishes with the planet's deadly inhabitants, bore the scars of his experiences like badges of honor. His skin, weathered and marred, told stories of encounters that would make even the bravest shudder. Today, he would lead a practical lesson on first aid, but the students soon discovered that his methods were as brutal as the world outside. The classroom, a stark chamber lined with medical stations, echoed with the soft whir of machines and the faint scent of antiseptic, a deceptive facade for the horrors that would soon unfold. As he began his demonstration, the atmosphere thickened, a palpable tension gripping the students. They had come from various corners of the galaxy, equipped with ideals of compassion and healing, but nothing could prepare them for Zaruk's chilling approach. With swift, deliberate movements, he showcased techniques that blended surgical precision with an air of ritualistic brutality. Each cut and bandage seemed to reverberate with the chilling truth. In Deathworld X-13, pain was not just a symptom to alleviate. It was a necessary rite of passage, a gateway to survival. The students watched in horror and fascination as Zaruk's hands deftly worked on a simulated wound, blood-like substances oozing from the model. As he explained, in this world, suffering is a teacher. It sharpens the mind and steels the body. His voice, a low growl, resonated through the room, leaving an unsettling imprint on their consciousness. The grotesque efficiency of his methods shattered their preconceived notions of care, igniting a flicker of doubt about their own training. Yet it was not until the simulation escalated and one hapless student, Cathar, met with a fateful accident that the true horror of Zaruk's teachings emerged. A blinding flash, a sharp cry, and Cathar lay on the cold floor, his leg pinned beneath a heavy piece of equipment. Panic erupted as the other students rushed to his side, their instincts kicking in, but there was no time for hesitation. The clock was ticking, and the cruel reality of Deathworld X-13 loomed ominously over them. Zaruk's eyes darkened with the weight of his decision. In that moment, he was thrust back into his own memories of desperation and loss. He remembered the day he had to choose between saving a comrade or succumbing to the chaos around him. The echoes of that choice haunt him still. Now he faced a similar crossroads, and he could feel the weight of the students' expectations pressing down on him. As he knelt beside Cathar, the atmosphere thickened with dread. The students stood paralyzed, caught between their ideals and the savage lessons they had yet to learn. This was no longer just a demonstration. It was a harrowing test of their very humanity. But as the seconds slipped away, one question remained. Would they embrace the brutal realities of their surroundings, or cling desperately to the fragile threads of compassion that might soon snap in the face of necessity? And just as the tension reached its peak, a low rumble echoed through the academy, shaking the walls and sending a chill down their spines, hinting that the true horror of Deathworld X-13 was far from over. The tremors from the low rumble intensified, causing the lights to flicker ominously. Zaruk's gaze darted toward the window, where jagged cliffs loomed against a stormy sky, dark clouds swirling with a menacing energy. He sensed the encroaching danger, a reminder that Deathworld X-13 was alive, and it had its own rules. Cathar's anguished cries cut through the tension, pulling Zaruk back into the present moment. The students, still paralyzed, were caught between the instinct to help and the terror of what lay beyond the academy's walls. Xeroc's voice rose above the chaos, a harsh command laced with urgency. "Get him out from under there! We don't have time for hesitation!" His demand shattered the students' paralysis, igniting a spark of adrenaline. They rushed towards Cathar, clumsily attempting to lift the heavy equipment pinning him down. Among them was Lyra, a skilled medic from the outer colonies. Her eyes were wide with fear, but beneath that fear lay a steely determination. Lyra had always believed in the power of healing, but the stark reality of Xeroc's lessons was sinking in. As she joined the others in lifting the equipment, she caught Xeroc's eye. "What do we do if we can't get him out in time?" Her voice trembled but was edged with resolve. Xeroc's answer was curt, revealing the depths of his experience. "Then, we do what we must. Pain is the only guarantee of survival here." His words hung heavily in the air, a stark reminder of the choices they might have to face. With a grunt, the group managed to shift the weight just enough for Cathar to wriggle free. But the moment was brief. The tremors continued, more violent. This time, and the Academy's alarms blared, a cacophony of warning signals that echoed through the sterile halls. The students quickly pulled Cathar to safety, cradling him in their arms as they scrambled for cover, their world spiraling into chaos. In the midst of the bedlam, a figure emerged from the shadows, Alaric, a former instructor and an expert in survival strategies. His presence was commanding, his expression hardened by years of living on the edge of death. "Xeroc," he bellowed, cutting through the noise. "We need to evacuate now. The seismic activity is escalating, and the creatures from outside will be drawn to the commotion." Xeroc felt a surge of conflicting emotions. Alaric was a man of survival, but he was also a reminder of the cost that came with such a mindset. They had shared a bond forged in blood and battle, yet their philosophies on survival diverged sharply. "The students need to learn," Xeroc shouted back, his frustration boiling over. "They won't survive out there if they don't understand." "The reality of this world," Lyra interjected, her voice rising to match the tension. "But they won't survive if we don't act now. We can't risk their lives for a lesson." The chaos around them heightened as the ground shook again, and the Academy's walls began to tremble ominously, threatening to collapse. Caught in this turmoil, Xeroc felt the weight of responsibility pressing down upon him. He looked at the students, their faces etched with fear and uncertainty, and realized that this was more than a lesson. It was a pivotal moment that could define them. They were not merely students. They were potential survivors of a brutal world, and their choices now would reverberate through their futures. As he weighed his options, the echoes of his past choices haunted him, a cacophony of decisions that had led to both triumphs and tragedies. The storm outside intensified, and the reality of their predicament became all too clear. They had to escape, but the lessons of survival would not wait for them to be ready. The line between teaching and survival had blurred, and now they all faced the terrifying unknown together. With urgency gripping his heart, Xeroc made a decision. "We'll move as a unit. Gather your supplies and remember what you've learned." He took a deep breath, steeling himself against the chaos. "We will survive or perish together." In that moment, the students looked at one another, their fears momentarily eclipsed by a shared resolve. They were bound by the knowledge that survival on Death World X-13 demanded not only skill, but unity, and the true lesson was just beginning. As the students hastily gathered their supplies, a low, haunting hum resonated through the Academy's corridors, vibrating against the very walls they leaned against for support. Xeroc's heart raced, not only from the urgency of the moment, but also from a chilling sense of familiarity. He had heard that sound before, back on the battlefield of a forgotten war, a prelude to chaos, a signal of something far worse than mere seismic disturbances. Suddenly the lights flickered violently, and then without warning, the power surged, plunging them into darkness. Panic erupted among the students, their voices merging into a frantic symphony of fear. In the chaos, Zarek could feel the ground shift beneath them, but it was more than just the tremors of the planet. It was as if the very fabric of reality was warping, and with it came a sense of impending doom. "Stay together!" he barked, but even his voice faltered against the rising tide of dread. He focused on the sound, the low hum that deepened into a menacing growl. It was coming from the walls, from the shadows that seemed to stretch and twist unnaturally. The Academy was alive in a way he had never experienced, as if it were a sentient being, preparing to unleash something monstrous. Then, without warning, the ground buckled violently and a fissure opened before them, spewing forth a swirling mist that obscured their vision. The air grew thick and suffocating, and the students stumbled back, eyes wide with terror. Out of the mist emerged a figure, cloaked in shadows, its form shifting and indistinct. The students recoiled, but Zarek stepped forward instinctively, an unsettling familiarity tugging at his memory. "Zarek!" Lyra's voice cut through the darkness, full of fear and confusion. "What is that?" He hesitated, his mind racing as fragmented memories resurfaced, visions of a past he thought buried. The figure before him was reminiscent of the ghostly apparitions from his childhood, echoes of his own unresolved trauma. How could this be? Were these phantoms conjured by the planet, or had he finally succumbed to madness? "Stay back," he shouted, though his voice faltered. The figure stepped closer, revealing a face that seemed to shimmer in and out of existence. It was a face he recognized, one that he had lost in the chaotic aftermath of war, a face that had haunted his dreams for years. No, it can't be. As the apparition spoke, its voice was a chilling echo of his own past, reverberating through his mind. "You abandoned me, Zarek. You left me to die, and now the price must be paid." The revelation struck him like a physical blow. The conflict was no longer just about survival, it was a confrontation with his own guilt and the demons. He had tried to escape. The students, caught in the crossfire of his unraveling sanity, stared at him in confusion. Alaric stepped forward, his eyes narrowing as he recognized the shift in Zarek. "What's happening? Who is that?" Zarek felt the walls closing in, the weight of his past pressing down on him. The Academy wasn't merely a structure, it was a living testament to his failures, and now it was demanding accountability. He had to confront the truth of his past if he hoped to guide the students through the horror unfolding before them. As the mist thickened and the figure loomed larger, Zarek realized that survival was no longer just about physical threats. It was a battle against the shadows of his own making. "We need to face this together," he urged the students, a plea wrapped in desperation. "Our survival depends on it." The tension escalated, and as they braced for the unknown, the flickering lights returned, revealing the true nature of their predicament, a revelation that would forever alter their understanding of both the Academy and themselves. As the mist coiled around them thick and suffocating, Zarek felt the weight of his past pressing down, harder than ever. The apparition hovered before him, its features flickering like a dying flame, but that voice, echoing with accusation, was unmistakable. It was not merely a specter, it was a manifestation of his guilt, a haunting reminder of the life he had failed to protect. "Zarek, what are you doing?" Alaric's voice trembled with uncertainty, cutting through the haze of dread. The students, their faces pale with fear, shifted behind him, their trust in him wavering as the ghostly figure loomed larger, a threat he had inadvertently conjured. "Get back," he barked, though the command was laced with uncertainty. He could feel Lyra's presence beside him, her hand gripping his arm tightly, a tether to the living world. "This is my fight." "Your fight?" Alaric challenged, stepping closer, his expression a mixture of anger and concern. "You think you can face this alone? You've kept us in the dark about your past. We deserve to know what's really happening." The apparition twisted, its form distorting with rage. "They deserve the truth, Zarek. You cannot shield them from the consequences of your betrayal." The words reverberated through the cavernous space, striking deep into Zarek's core, igniting a firestorm of emotions: shame, regret, and a desperate need for redemption. "Stop!" Lyra cried, her voice rising above the chaos. "We can't let it manipulate us like this." She stepped forward, her eyes fierce, challenging both the apparition and Xeroc's resolve. "You're not alone, Xeroc. We're with you." Xeroc's heart raced as Lyra's words pierced through the fog of his despair. The unity they had forged in their time at the academy suddenly felt like a lifeline. He turned to face his fellow students, their expressions a mix of fear and determination. They were not merely bystanders. They were a part of this struggle, and together they could confront the darkness. With a deep breath, he steadied himself, drawing strength from their presence. "If you want the truth, then we'll face it together," he declared, his voice steadying as he took a step toward the apparition. "If I abandon you, then I will confront that choice, but I will not let you take them from me." The figure's form flickered, wavering between menace and vulnerability. The growl of the hum intensified, resonating in the very marrow of the academy, as if the structure itself was caught in the battle of wills. Xeroc's anger surged, fueled by the realization that this was not just a confrontation with a ghost, but also a reckoning with the part of himself that he had buried so deep. Alaric and Lyra moved to flank him, their solidarity igniting a spark of hope. "We stand with you," Alaric said, his voice rising above the chaos, echoing with conviction. "Together, we can face whatever this is." The apparition recoiled, slightly, as if taken aback by their unity. It was a critical moment, the air thick with impending change. Xeroc felt the tension coiling around them, ready to snap. This was the moment of choice, the decisive clash between his past and the future he hoped to protect. As the ground shifted once more, the mist began to swirl violently, and the light flickered erratically, illuminating their faces in a ghostly glow. Xeroc summoned every ounce of courage he possessed, ready to confront the entity and the demons within himself head-on. "Let's end this," he shouted, a rallying cry that echoed through the chaos. And with that, they surged forward, ready to face the unknown together. As they surged forward, the apparition unleashed a deafening wail, a sound that rippled through the very foundations of the academy. The mist thickened, becoming a living entity that clawed at their skin and filled their lungs with a bitter chill. But Xeroc's heart raced with purpose, fueled by the unwavering support of Alaric and Lyra. Together, they crashed against the phantom, a collision of past regrets and present resolve. The moment they made contact, the world erupted into chaos. A blinding light enveloped them, momentarily blinding Xeroc as he felt the full force of the apparition's anguish. Flashes of memories surged through him, faces he had failed, cries for help echoing in his ears. He staggered, struggling against the torrent of emotions, but the strength of his companions anchored him. They held tightly to one another, a chain of humanity against the ethereal storm. With a final, desperate roar, the apparition began to dissipate, its form breaking apart, like fragile glass. In an instant, the mist receded, leaving behind a heavy silence. Xeroc collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath, the weight of victory and loss crashing over him like a tidal wave. The ghost had vanished, but the scars it left behind were indelible. Alaric knelt beside him, the fear that had once clouded his eyes replaced by concern. "Xeroc, are you okay?" His voice was firm, but a tremor betrayed his worry. Lyra crouched on Xeroc's other side, her hand brushing against his shoulder, providing warmth and reassurance. I think so," Xeroc managed, though the sharp ache in his chest told a different story. He looked up at his friends, their faces illuminated by the faint glow of the remnants of the apparition. The shared experience had forged a bond deeper than he could have ever anticipated, but the reality of his past still loomed large. As they regained their footing, the air shifted, crackling with residual energy. A faint whisper lingered in the corners of the chamber, teasing at something unresolved. Xeroc felt it tugging at the edges of his consciousness, a reminder that while the immediate threat had been vanquished, the mysteries of his past were far from over. Did we really end it? Lyra asked, her brow furrowed. Or just pushed it back? Zaruk shook his head, uncertainty gnawing at him. I don't know. But I can't shake the feeling that this is only the beginning. Alaric stood, scanning the room as if expecting another apparition to emerge. We need to uncover what really happened. There are answers buried here. His gaze fell upon a shadowed corner, where the remnants of the mist still lingered, swirling with an almost sentient quality. Suddenly the ground quaked beneath them, and a low rumble echoed through the hall. A stone slab shifted, revealing an ancient inscription carved into the earth, a warning perhaps, or a clue to something greater yet to come. Look, Lyra pointed, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement. What does it say? As Zaruk approached the inscription, a foreboding sense of destiny washed over him. This was not merely about his past, but the intertwining fates of everyone in the Academy. They had faced the specter together, but what else awaited them in the shadows of their shared history? With a heavy heart, he realized the journey was far from over. The consequences of their confrontation would ripple outward, affecting not just their lives, but the very fabric of the Academy itself. And as he traced the ancient symbols with trembling fingers, a new mystery began to unfurl, hinting at challenges yet to come. Let's find out what this means, he said, determination sparking in his chest. Together, the trio exchanged resolute nods, their next adventure already taking shape in the cavernous silence as the Academy stood watch over its secrets, waiting for the next chapter to unfold. As Zaruk, Alaric, and Lyra stood before the ancient inscription, the air crackled with an unsettling energy. The symbols glowed faintly, revealing two distinct paths, etched in stone, each one a testament to choices they had yet to make. Zaruk felt a shiver run down his spine as he deciphered the warning. The inscription spoke of a choice, one that could either seal their fate or unleash an even darker force upon the Academy. The weight of possibility pressed heavily on him. They could confront the remnants of the apparition, risking everything, to banish it for good, or they could seek the hidden knowledge that promised unimaginable power, but at a catastrophic cost. Zaruk, we need to decide, Alaric urged, his voice a mix of fear and determination. What if the darkness returns? We can't keep running, Lyra looked between them, her eyes wide with dread. But what if we lose everything? What if we become the very monsters we fear? The moment stretched, heavy with tension and uncertainty. Zaruk's heart raced as he imagined the consequences of each choice. If they fought, they might save the Academy but risk their lives and their souls. If they sought power, they might gain strength but at the cost of their humanity. Choose, the whispers of the Academy seemed to beckon, a sinister echo in the silence. With a deep breath, Zaruk realized that the choice lay before him, dark and unyielding. He could confront the apparition again, risking their lives in a battle that could lead to their demise, or he could pursue the knowledge that could corrupt them all, making them instruments of a darker will. Together, we can face anything, he finally said, but uncertainty gnawed at him. But I can't promise we'll return whole. As the trio stood at the crossroads, the Academy loomed around them, its secrets still shrouded in mystery. The choice was theirs to make, but either path would lead to consequences they could scarcely comprehend. Conclusion. In a world where choices intertwine with fate, Zaruk found himself at the precipice of despair and hope, each path equally terrible. The echoes of their past and the specter of their future loomed large, leaving them to confront the darkest corners of their souls. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Share with your friends so they can also embark on this mystery-filled adventure. Leave a comment below telling us your favorite part or what kind of ending you'd like to see in a future story.